Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some malicious compliance stories and our first story of the day is by Mousalam. If you don't like the job, you can just quit. Okay. A bit of context here. I'm originally from Syria, and I spent around 7 to 8 months in Sudan, Africa, and that country being a third world country and super poor, didn't have any good jobs, but at the same time, prices were so cheap, you can live with only around $100 a month. Rent, bills, food, and water. But gasoline was expensive to the point that you might need around $50 to $100 just for commuting to work. So it comes to around $200 per month if you're going to work by any kind of transportation. As for jobs, the best you can do without prior experience is either work in a restaurant or a factory for at most $100, which meant you had to be close to the job or get them to cover transportation. So around 5 months ago, I got in contact with a restaurant owner and talked with him about a job offer I saw. The job we talked about was being a warehouse manager for the restaurant. My shift starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 6 p.m. 7 days a week, with only one vacation day per month, and I get one sandwich per day as lunch and one meal per week to take home. I asked about the salary, and he said we will discuss it later. I asked how I will organize the warehouse, and he said he will provide me with a laptop to work on later. I agreed to work a trial period of a week, and then we will discuss the salary and see if it works out. First day on the job, he hands me the keys of their warehouse, and when I open it, I find a glorious mess. I asked my coworkers about it, and they said no one has worked as a warehouse manager for the past few months. I go in and start looking at what we have in the warehouse and taking notes. Then I started a new Google account on my phone and made a new Excel sheet on it and sorted everything there. By the end of day 1, I had went through most of the things in the warehouse, and I only have 2 words to describe what I saw there. Holy crap. It was such a mess, the workers didn't even know what they have in the warehouse. An example, they need mustard, and they don't find it the moment they look at the shelves, they buy a new box. And I can say for sure the warehouse was left like this for more than a year, because I found meat in the freezer that was expired since more than 2 years ago. I'm never gonna eat anything with meat in it from that restaurant. Second day on the job, I started actually doing my job by ordering new supplies, sorting the list I made on my phone by type so we can find items in it quickly, putting away the expired products, etc. During my second day and out of nowhere, the boss comes to the warehouse and gives me a list of everyone in the restaurant and tells me to take their attendance because the guy responsible for this is busy with other things in the kitchen. I tell him I still don't know anyone in the restaurant, but he insists that I can just learn their names while doing my job. Okay, whatever. I'm trying to impress him the first few days, so I will do it. By the end of day 2, I had finished inputting everything into my phone, throwing away all expired ingredients, and even taking attendance. All that's left is physically sorting out the warehouse to make it look better, and I will have done a great job and was hoping for a good answer from the boss. I go to discuss things with him at the end of my shift. I show him how I sorted everything on my phone and tell him that once he brings over a laptop, we can just move the file there and it's easy for anyone to check the inventory since it's on Google and all that stuff. Then I explained to him the state of the warehouse when I came in and how much I worked to make it better. And he was really impressed and praised me for a job well done. Then I asked how much my salary will be. He says, your salary will start at 60 USD, and then as you work I will improve it, and maybe in a few months you will reach 120 USD. I say, what? I can't afford to even stay alive until then. Transportation between here and my house alone are 50 USD. Are you telling me to not eat or pay rent during this month? At least, he cuts me off with an angry voice. If you don't like it, then you can just leave. I figured that he wasn't someone to be reasoned with, so I immediately answered, okay, and left. Bullet successfully dodged. The next day, one of the coworkers there calls me asking where I keep the list of their inventory because he didn't find it, and I answered that there is no list. He was surprised and asked about the list I showed the boss, and I said, oh that? It was actually on my phone. And he asked me to send it to him, which I replied with, I'm sorry, but since I quit, I just removed the file from my phone. Have fun sorting through that mess, and I hang up. It wasn't that big of a victory, but at least I didn't give them the results of my efforts for free. Because it happened like that, my 2 days of work there were unpaid. If you were in dire need of a job, would you be willing to accept a work trial for a week where you don't even know what the job offer is as far as salary goes at the end? Or would you need to know what kind of pay you would get before you even started doing any kind of work? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by the MCP. You won't pay $100 for a new hard drive? Okay, enjoy paying $22,000 for my time to deal with the problem. I had a job where I had a computer which was, incidentally, also the web server for a very important internal web application. I thought this was really stupid that it wasn't in a server room being managed by IT, but for some weird reason they wouldn't do it. I didn't use this application or have anything to do with it, but it took up a large chunk of the hard drive and made it slow. I didn't even know what it was on the hard drive, so there was a bunch of old development software I could never remove for fear of harming the application. I was also not permitted to turn the machine off or even sign out nights or weekends, so it would be running whenever anyone needed the application. I had to just lock the screen and leave it. This application was apparently something developed by my department before I joined the company, and everyone involved with it was no longer there. And nobody really knew anything about how it worked other than this machine had to be running and signed in, and it wasn't developed in our normal system and wasn't in our code repository. By the end of my time with the company, they'd had such turnover that I was literally the only person in the department who knew it was even there. I was a web developer and I required a vast amount of disk space for my work, for reasons mostly relating to how moronic management was about process. I had to keep 3 complete copies of everything the company ever developed. I often ran out of disk space. I had to use increasingly desperate measures to deal with this, up to and including deleting anything that Microsoft included with Windows that I didn't actually need, like the camera app on a PC with no camera. It quickly got to the point that I had to call IT to tell them my PC was becoming unusable due to disk space, and could they please do something about it, and suggested that because of this application, they might want to take this PC into management and give me a different one. I thought they would do something like replace the computer, identical would be fine as long as it didn't have this application on it, or give it a larger internal disk, or maybe even just attach an external disk. I would still have a slow machine, but I'd have the space to do my work. But they told me I'd have to remove what I could and defrag the disk to make more space, and I would just have to suffer, and please don't call them about this again. I talked to my boss and was told that IT's word was final and I would just have to deal with it. So it'd get bad, I'd remove what I could and start a defragment, and the machine would become too slow for me to use for about 24 hours, during which time I could do no work. This happened about once a week, so it took about 1/5 of my time, not counting time spent looking for stuff to delete. I kept telling management this was happening, and they kept telling me to shut up and deal with it, but at least when they wanted me to do stuff and it was, "I can't, my computer is busy clearing disk space and presently unusable," they moaned but understood and left me alone. So because IT was too lazy to do anything, and management was too lazy to go to bat for me, and the company was unwilling to spend $100 on an external hard drive, they got to spend over $22,000 a year on salary for me to sit around and wait for the machine to make some space so I could do my work. That wasn't my salary. That was the portion of my salary that they were wasting on this problem, not counting the value of the time of everyone else that had to do my work while I couldn't. Oh, and it was getting to the point that I wouldn't be able to deal with it at all. There wasn't anything left to delete, and defragging wasn't reclaiming any more space, and the company's internal software took up more and more space every day, and I estimated I had about a week left before it became fully unusable, when I had a heart attack and a stroke and never went back. I occasionally think, with admittedly some glee, of the panic it must have caused when they no doubt turned off the computer and sent it to IT to be wiped, and a few hours later panicked users started calling demanding to know where their precious application that they couldn't live without was, only for my evil minglement to say honestly, "What application?" You would just think that in any kind of a situation where you rely on a proprietary software that you have no control over or no documentation of, they would begin to look into some way to replace it or de-engineer it or find some way to take control of it, so when the proverbial crap hits the fan, they're not going to be in incredibly deep water. It wouldn't have even necessarily have been a matter of when the computer completely fills up. It might have been a matter of when does a component in the computer die? Do they go and just get another laptop and shove that hard drive in there and just keep the loop going? It was just absolutely terrible manglement. And our final story of the day is by oienel. They want stone? Oh, I will give them stone. To start off, I wasn't the one to administer this malicious compliance, nor was I the target of it, but I was there to witness its every step. I work as a translator/interpreter for a foreign construction company in my country, translating between my foreign management and local suppliers. My culture and my management's culture are very different in terms of work ethics, which is a never-ending source of anger and anguish for my employers. That's why, although my job is to convey what they say, I often act as intermediary when dealing with local companies. Just before Christmas, our main architect insisted on scheduling a meeting with new mason supplier. I tried letting them know that maybe rescheduling for 2021 would be a good idea because my country is pretty big on Christmas celebrations, and we all know that between December 20th and January 10th, nothing will be done. Everyone is going on holidays, and especially now with Plague around already slowing everything down, Christmas time was sure to be a standstill. However, as I said, the architect was adamant and the meeting was scheduled. Mason suppliers representatives came and we spent close to 3 hours arguing sizes of slabs. We were informed that dimensions that our architects were demanding are not easy to obtain and would be rather costly because of enormous losses in raw materials, which in my home country is a clear message. You need to change your design or find another supplier because we can't meet your demands, which is not a message that can be easily explained to my management. Thus, 3 hours long meeting. And yes, one could think that we could go and try and find another mason supplier that could do it, but unfortunately this one supplier is a sole owner of stone quarry with this particular stone that our investors fell in love with. So after a long and exhausting fight, our architects capitulated to the idea of changing the design. And when we thought that all was well, our main architect said that our company needs samples as soon as possible. And when supplier explained that as soon as possible means as soon as possible after January 10th, once more, all heck was set loose. My management is still not used to getting their way. In their culture, suppliers will do anything and everything that is demanded of them. And every no they hear, they take personally and think it's just an excuse, and that the supplier is simply lazy. So they weren't open to being understanding after being forced to change their project just a moment earlier. It was another exhausting hour of explanations and demands where local supplier informed us that samples that we want need to be cut manually. And it's more work than one might think, and with Christmas time upon us, they simply don't have enough hands on board to cut the slabs they already have. But they are happy to direct us to places where their stone was used, so we can see how it looks in reality. That idea wasn't accepted, and it was said that we should be able to see how their product really looks without going anywhere. Finally, the meeting was ended with, "Fine, I don't care how you do it, but I need stone and I need it quick." Resigned supplier conceded, and meeting was finished on a sour note, but at least my management was somewhat satisfied. Until last week, our main architect called me panicked that someone called them and it was probably a delivery driver. I called the number I was given, and true enough, it was a delivery driver. I went downstairs, our office is on a first floor, no elevator, and driver looked at me and smiled a little. "Oh, so I guess the package won't be delivered right to your hands?" Now, when I mentioned earlier that we wanted samples, I meant little blocks of material, in this instance, type of stone. No more than 2 by 5 inches or 5 by 15 centimeters, give or take. So when I was pointed to the package, I was surprised to say the least. We were sent full-size industrial slabs of stone, all types we wanted to see. You know, big butt pieces of stone that are usually used on elevations of fancy buildings. Massive things, but of course, neatly packed and secured, standing in front of our office building. I can't say my management was furious, they were aghast. See, the only way to move the package as a whole is a forklift, but our entrance doors are not wide enough for a forklift to go through. Then there are stairs to tackle, which is a whole different story. A package like this is secured in pallet-like wood structure, and it needs to be broken so individual slabs can be taken out. But we don't have equipment to pack it again if we were to open it. We can't open it, we can't bring it inside, and now we have a new fixture at the entrance. It's been a week since we got it, and for now it's being used as a bench by smoking coworkers. I don't know if there will be a fallout, but as I mentioned earlier, we can't really drop this supplier. My management is quite silent about the whole issue. But one thing is clear, they will not be asking for samples again, as they asked me to find buildings that our supplier mentioned during our December meeting. And I know that my management expects me to be as aghast and annoyed as they are, but the idea of someone in our supplier's company going, "They want stone? Oh, I will give them stone," brings me so much unadulterated joy that my mood brightens up whenever I see our stone fixture outside. Honestly, considering how much power the supplier had here, and how much they surely spent getting all of that stone over to them, I'm surprised they went along with this and didn't just drop that management. Did they really need the job that bad that it's worth sending that as just a joke? I mean, it was effective, I'll give them that. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.